Once upon a time, there was a continent that vanished into the ocean in a single day. This isn't just some old tale that got lost in time. It's a mystery that scholars around the world are still searching for, even after 2,400 years have passed. Its name is Atlantis. This island appears in just 2 dialogues written by the Greek philosopher Plato, and even now, excavations and explorations continue at more than 5 candidate sites. From cities buried under volcanic ash on Santorini Island, to underwater structures off the coast of southern Spain, the Azores archipelago. In the middle of the Atlantic, submerged Doggerland in the north, sea and even massive circular formations in the heart of the Sahara Desert. Which one could be real? Or did it ever exist at all? When around 360 BC, when Plato left his record, though he claimed the event happened 9,000 years before his time, where the story began at Plato's Academy in Athens, Greece, but the location of Atlantis itself is described only vaguely as beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Who Plato himself, his great-grandfather, Solon, and Egyptian priests from the city of Sais who supposedly passed down this story. What a great island nation that sank beneath the sea, in just 1 day and 1 night. Why, according to Plato, the people grew arrogant and offended the gods. So they were punished. How an earthquake and flood struck simultaneously, and the entire island disappeared without a trace. But there's something peculiar about this story. No one except Plato ever mentioned Atlantis. Not Herodotus, the great historian of the same era, nor Thucydides said a single word about it. So was this just a made-up story? Or could traces of a truly lost continent still be hiding somewhere? Let's dive into this riddle that's remained unsolved for 2,400 years. Plato wrote about Atlantis in 2 dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Here's what he said. Around 9600 BC, somewhere beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic Ocean, there existed a great island nation. The capital was surrounded by concentric rings of canals, and at the center stood a magnificent temple to Poseidon covered in gold. The entire island was prosperous, even home to elephants, and possessed a powerful navy that threatened the entire Mediterranean region. But as the people of this nation grew increasingly prideful and greedy, the gods became angry and sank the island beneath the sea in just 1 day and 1 night. Plato claimed he heard this story from his great-grandfather Solon. Solon, when visiting the city of Sais in the Nile Delta of Egypt, heard this legend from a priest there and brought it back to Greece. So if we trace the source, it goes Egyptian priest Solon Plato. The problem is, this story appears only in Plato's writings. Herodotus, who lived in the same era, traveled to Egypt and recorded countless legends but never mentioned Atlantis once. Same with Thucydides. Even Plato's own student Aristotle never quoted this story from his teacher. So was this a tale Plato invented to create a philosophical allegory? Or could it be a faint memory of a vanished civilization, passed down through oral tradition? To find answers, archaeologists and explorers have investigated more than 5 candidate sites. Over the past century, let's look at them one by one. The first candidate is Santorini Island in the Cyclades archipelago of Greece. More precisely, this island in the southern Aegean Sea was known in ancient times as Thera. Around 1600 BC, one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in history occurred here. The explosion was tens of thousands of times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb, and volcanic ash covered the sky, plunging the entire Mediterranean into darkness. The center of the island was completely blown away, and what remained became the crescent-shaped cliffs that exist to this day. This eruption buried the Minoan city of Akrotiri under volcanic ash, and when a Greek archaeologist excavated the site in 1967, amazing facts came to light. Akrotiri was an advanced city with 2- and 3-story buildings, and its walls were decorated with brilliant fresco paintings. Ships and dolphins, elegant people in fine clothing, all preserved vividly. Complete with drainage systems, this city remained frozen in time, thanks to the volcanic ash, just like Pompeii. Archaeologists thought this. Could the Atlantis Plato spoke of actually be this Minoan civilization? The Minoan civilization flourished around Crete Island, possessed a powerful navy, and dominated Mediterranean trade. And it declined rapidly after the Thera volcanic eruption. Timing-wise, it's around 1600 BC, so Plato's mention of 9,000 years ago could mean the Egyptian priests miscommunicated the dating system or exaggerated. But there's one critical problem. Plato said Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, meaning outside the Strait of Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean. Santorini is right in the middle of the Aegean Sea. The location is completely different. So does that disqualify Santorini? Or did Plato change the location when he recorded it? The answer remains uncertain. The second candidate is the Cadiz Coast, in the Andalusia region of southern Spain. This location is right next to what Plato called the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar. In 2011, a research team discovered structures arranged in a grid pattern. While exploring the seabed of this area, satellite photos and underwater scans revealed rectangular formations that appeared to be man-made. Some scholars suggested these could be remnants of an ancient city, but opposing views are just as strong. Geologists argue that these structures could be natural sediment, layers or traces of old salt pans. Without definitive evidence, the debate continues. The third candidate is the Azores Islands, a Portuguese territory. These 9 volcanic islands sit in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 1,500 kilometers west of the Strait of Gibraltar. Some researchers claim the Azores are actually part of a massive underwater plateau, most of which was submerged when sea levels rose at the end of the Ice Age. When you analyze the underwater topography, you can indeed find underwater ridges and flat terrain between the islands, but no evidence of human habitation has been discovered in this region yet. The counter-argument is that volcanic activity was so intense that ancient ruins couldn't have survived. Whether it's Cadiz or the Azores, both have aspects that match Plato's description in terms of location, but the lack of solid physical evidence remains a problem. So what about the other places? The fourth is a landmass called Doggerland, now submerged beneath the North Sea. Between Britain, the Netherlands, and Denmark, beneath the North Sea, there once existed vast plains during the Ice Age. Around 6500 BC, as glaciers melted and sea levels rose rapidly, this region was gradually submerged. Fishermen in the North Sea sometimes pull up mammoth bones or Stone Age tools in their nets. With advances in underwater terrain scanning technology in the 2020s, traces of Doggerland's river systems and settlements are becoming increasingly clear. Some scholars argue this. Could the Atlantis Plato recorded actually be a distorted memory of Doggerland's submersion at the end of the Ice Age? But Doggerland sank gradually, not overnight. And there's no evidence of a highly advanced civilization. It's far from Plato's description. The fifth is the Richat Structure, in the middle of the Sahara Desert in Mauritania, Africa. This formation, nicknamed the Eye of the Sahara, is a massive concentric circle, about 50 kilometers in diameter. Remarkably, it resembles the structure of Atlantis's capital, as Plato described it, a city surrounded by layer upon layer of circular canals. Some researchers claim this location was once on the coast, and was pushed deep inland by tectonic shifts. But geological analysis shows the Richat Structure is a massive dome formation, created by natural erosion. There's no trace of human construction whatsoever. It's just a natural landform that happens to look similar to Plato's description. We've looked at all 5 candidate sites. Each has its own supporting evidence, but none has conclusive proof. So did Atlantis really never exist? Here's a crucial twist we can't overlook. Only one person ever recorded Atlantis Plato. Herodotus traveled throughout Egypt, Persia, and Greece, recording countless legends and histories. Yet nowhere in his massive work, Histories, does Atlantis appear. Same with Thucydides. In his meticulous records of the Peloponnesian War, there's no mention of a lost continent. Not in Egyptian priestly records. Not in Phoenician merchants' navigation logs. Atlantis appears nowhere. Even Plato's teacher, Socrates, and his student Aristotle never mentioned this story. Aristotle critically examined many of his teacher's ideas, but never said a word about Atlantis. This is truly strange. If Atlantis had been an actual historical event, surely other chroniclers of the time would have mentioned it. So why did Plato write this story? Many scholars think this way. Through Timaeus and Critias, Plato wanted to contrast an ideal state with a corrupt one. Atlantis was initially powerful and prosperous, but fell to ruin through pride and greed. Meanwhile, ancient Athens defeated Atlantis through virtue and wisdom. It's a philosophical allegory, a lesson that misusing power and wealth leads to destruction. So Atlantis likely wasn't actual history, but a story Plato created. Yet questions remain. Did Plato invent complete fiction, or did he adapt? Faint memories of some disaster passed down through time. No one knows the answer. Even now, 2,400 years later, Atlantis remains a mystery. Excavations continue at Akrotiri on Santorini Island, and new underwater explorations are underway off the Spanish coast. In the waters around the Azores Islands, underwater robots are scanning the terrain, and in the North Sea's Doggerland, fishermen still pull up ancient artifacts. The Richat Structure in the Sahara Desert is constantly being analyzed through satellite imagery, but no definitive evidence has emerged yet. We still don't know whether the island Plato recorded truly existed, or if it was merely a philosophical allegory. Perhaps Atlantis is a dream that can never be found. Or perhaps one day, suddenly, remnants of golden temples will be discovered deep beneath the sea. Until then, this story will continue. As long as human curiosity endures, the journey to find the lost continent will never stop. Where was that continent that sank in a single day? The answer still sleeps somewhere beneath the waves.